There are many stories that exist within the universe that we know and that we don't know. Such a story, simply one of countless, begins out here in the vastness of space, in a place far beyond Earth, the home of humanity. There exists a grand entity, one unlike any that you may know. This being has existed for far longer than even humanity itself. No one knows from where this being came, who created it, and when. From where did such a being spring? Truth be told, no one knows. This being is known as the Forge, a being of colossal size. Its body built by its own hands, having a sheer mass that, quite frankly, staggers the imagination. And yet, it is alive, and all who know of this being know it to be so. For the Forge is called such for a very specific reason. No one knows why it does what it does. In fact, this knowledge has been long since lost, even by the Forge itself. However, beyond reason or explanation, beyond true cause or understanding, the Forge continues its never-ending, ceaseless work. It exists but for one purpose: to create weapons. Weapons unlike anything that most throughout the universe could ever imagine. Weapons that grant the power to change one's destiny, to rewrite the rules of reality, bend them to your will. Weapons that can decide the salvation or destruction of entire worlds. But it does not give these weapons to anyone. No, that is not as how the Forge works. As absurd as it may sound, the Forge creates these all-powerful weapons which can bring salvation or destruction, and then it simply casts them away, out into space, with no specific destination, course, beyond anyone's understanding. It simply sends them away. The story we follow now is of one of those many weapons. So if you would, follow me back to the world that we are all so familiar with, to our home, Earth. There, in a secluded retreat, a group of men gather, warm around a fire. All of these men, former soldiers, warriors who spent their life in combat, and all of them gravely injured. There you see men without limbs, men on crutches, men whose bodies are scarred beyond reason, beyond recognition for some. And there, in front of the campfire, they all gather, as an uninjured man steps forward. Okay, guys, I'm glad that everyone could make it to this, our Warriors Retreat and Psychological Support Seminar. We're all here for the same reason. All of us are soldiers. Soldiers who now have to deal with the conflict of no longer being able to work as such. We have been stripped of our ability to join our comrades on the battlefields. We have sacrificed great things for our people and our country. Many of us have dealt with despair, hopelessness, fear, anxiety, and countless other losses. But we have gathered here today because I want to let each and every one of you know that you are still soldiers. We are strong because we stand together. Despite the limitations placed on us, we refuse to stop being soldiers. Don't make me laugh, one of the men announced from within the crowd. Still soldiers? Every year since my injury, I've come to this fucking seminar, listened to the stories, everybody telling themselves that I'm still a soldier. It doesn't matter if I have my legs. It doesn't matter if I have my arms. It doesn't matter if I can't walk or run. I'm still a soldier. What a fucking joke. Matthew, how long have we been trying to reach you? The counselor said, staring across the group to a man in a wheelchair as he finished his statement. I know that things are hard, but that's why we gather here, to support each other. This isn't a battle you have to fight alone. Soldiers never do. We fight together with other soldiers. We are never alone, and neither are you. We don't need that sort of negativity. When are you gonna let it go? Let it go. What a ridiculous statement. I'll tell you what. I'll let it go the moment I can use my legs again. The moment that I walk out of this chair, I'll go right ahead and let it go. You see, I'm gonna say what I should have said the very first time I came to one of these little gatherings. It's all crap. We're still soldiers. No, we're not. A soldier is one who serves on the battlefield, who fights alongside his allies, who serves his country. A soldier is a weapon, a tool that serves the agenda of the country he serves, the people that he protects. All of us, we're no more than tools, and we're broken ones at that. Blades that have fractured and shattered and have no further use in combat. Our blades no longer able to cut, our triggers snapped and broken, our clips empty. We are not soldiers anymore. We can't be. No matter how you look at it, no matter what way you try to shake it. That's the truth. None of us will ever really be soldiers again. True enough, we can still serve some sort of a purpose. We can act as support units, working behind desks, doing clerical work, typing on computers. But none of us are ever going to see a battlefield again. We're never going to hear the ring of gunshots, the explosions going off in the distance, knowing that we're about to head there ourselves. We are all broken tools. That's all we are. And I am sick of hearing these roundabouts of everyone just lying to themselves. If you can be happy typing on a computer, doing clerical work, then by all means do it. But I was a soldier. I was made for the battlefield. The moment I set foot on one, I never felt more at home. As if I was born to do it. It was my purpose, my calling. And now, I'm useless. They can't bring me on a battlefield. I'd get everyone killed. Just stuck in this useless hunk of meat, locked inside of this damn chair. All the while, right now, as we're sitting here having this little campfire gathering, there are battles being fought that I'm never going to see. Bullets whizzing by that I'm never going to dodge. Explosions going off that I neither perceive nor had anything to do with. I am a tool that's lost its purpose. With no purpose, and there's just no point. My home has been stripped away from me. Now all I have is this prison of a chair and these asinine gatherings, and I'm just sick of it, Matthew said as he finally stopped talking, beginning to roll backwards, moving his hands along the wheels of his chair as he moved himself away from the gathering. Matthew, come back! The counselor called out, but Matthew did not heed his words, simply continuing to roll away, moving further away from the rest of the group, leaving them behind him, gathered around the fire at night. As he rolled himself farther and farther away, trying to get some time alone. He spent so much time with other people gathered around, trying to give him support for something that they couldn't possibly understand. He hated it. The truth was they couldn't understand him. He wasn't like everyone else. The words he spoke were true. His only real home was the battlefield. More than anything, that's where he wanted to be. That's where he felt safe, where the world made sense, without all the complication and nuance that people try to enforce on the rest of the life that everyone has to live. On the battlefield, everything is simple. You have allies and you have enemies, and just the people caught in the middle. Survival and death depends on being able to assess where someone stands as quickly as possible. The faster that you can categorize them into one of these segments, ally, enemy, or neutral, the greater the chances are that you'll survive. And he was good at it. Very good at it. As were attested to by his countless medals, promotions, and the extremely dangerous assignments that he would regularly take. But no longer. As he rolled to the side of a hill, coming to a stop as he lamented all that he had lost. Another year gone by, with no sign of improvement, and no hope of any to come. He looked up into the sky, to the stars above him, and when he did, he didn't bother to make a wish. He knew truly within his heart and soul that what he truly wanted was not a wish that could ever be granted. He was now and forever robbed, and it was as he stared up into that star-filled sky that he began to see a light, unlike any of the ones that dotted the sky above, as it began streaking through the sky, swooping down to his location. Before he realized it, it streaked right by overhead, slamming into the ground nearby with a massive eruption, an explosion that sent trees blowing away, chunks of rock and stone flying, tearing the soft grass beneath them apart, filling the area with dust and smoke, almost knocking him out of his wheelchair altogether. Luckily enough, there was enough distance from the impact site that he wasn't blown out of his chair or harmed seriously, and all of the debris seemed to miss him, luckily enough. As he stared into the crater of destruction, beginning to roll his chair that way, he began to hear a thrumming, a pulsation, as he saw a light emitting. Surely enough, there was some measure of fire from the impact, but this light was different, giving off a powerful aura that seemed to cut through the dust in the air. As he rolled himself through the crater further and further towards the center, eventually finding some sort of device, a spherical object lodged in the center of this crater. "What in the world is that?" he said, peering down at it as it thrummed gently, vibrating, almost seeming to call to him, as he heard the voices of the other wounded soldiers beginning to grow near, the counselors closest, as he ran towards the location. No doubt they would be here to investigate soon as well, and this was most definitely something in need of investigation. As it thrummed, he leaned down, wanting to take a closer look. First, reaching out and tapping it with his finger. As he did, a wash of blue, radiant energy flowed over the surface of the metallic structure, as it began to give off strange sounds. And as it did, suddenly, it hoisted itself out of the crater, floating in the center of the air, as it began to scan, bright lights emitting out of it, sweeping over everything in the area before falling on him, sweeping across him countless times, as suddenly its spherical shape, with bright lights pouring out of it, began to shrink, dwindling down smaller and smaller in size. At first nearly the size of a basketball, finally shrinking down to something more akin to a ping pong ball, but still floating there in the air, giving off that roaring sound. As he stared at it in amazement and in a rush of movement, suddenly the sphere shot down towards him, barreling into his chest as what appeared to be some sort of field of energy emitted from him, and the sphere began to dissipate into it, like traveling through some sort of light gateway, passing away through it until it had disappeared entirely. And as it did, he suddenly found himself somewhere else. Suddenly, he could feel his legs. Like something out of a dream, he was no longer in his chair. He was standing on some sort of smooth metallic surface. There seemed to be ambient light, orange ambient light, that reached out from all around. And as he stood up tall, looking about, what he saw was absolutely amazing. From the vantage point he stood, he appeared to be inside the palm of a hand, but not any regular hand. Some sort of mechanical monstrosity, larger than he could have possibly imagined it. The fingers ebbing up, and at the tips of the fingers and the joints between them appeared to be stars, burning with all the radiance of his own sun, as a voice called out to him. "Hello," the voice said, as he began to dart around, looking from place to place, trying to find a source, as the voice itself seemed sourceless. "I am the Forge, and you have found one of my great gifts. What you are now in possession of is a weapon, unlike any weapon you have ever heard of. Forged with my power and knowledge, it is beyond your true comprehension. But there are those that draw false assumptions when they find these weapons. So I am here to clarify, to help you understand and hold grasp. The power of which you now wield is extraordinary. However, you do not wield this power because you are special or gifted, intelligent, cunning, wise. It is not a stroke of destiny, nor simply your fate. It is random chance. Random chance alone, and nothing more. What you decide to do with the power you have been given is entirely up to you. Destruction or salvation. Rule over your world with an iron fist, or protect it from any harm that it might face. Regardless of what you choose to do with it, I will not stop you, but know truly that it is only chance. You were not chosen. You are simply the person who first interacted with the weapon. It could have been anyone. And that's why it was you. Random chance. Do not delude yourself into believing you are destined to rule anything, to destroy anything, or to protect anything. You were just the one lucky enough to gain possession of the weapon. The weapon is connected to me, and so, through focus, you can communicate with me whenever you so choose. The weapon that you have found grants one great power. This one specifically keeps your body healthy, maintains it to keep you at optimal functional levels, as well as granting you a very specific power. Of all of the countless powers that exist in the universe, There are many that are absolutely necessary for all existence itself. Yours is one such power, and it is on this day you have claimed power over gravity itself. You are able to bend the laws of gravity to your will. From this point forward, all gravity is at your service. Do what you will with it. The voice called out, as in a sudden rush of light, he found himself back in the crater where he started, simply sitting there in his chair. But now, it was different. As he peered down at his legs, for the first time in years, he could feel them. His toes moving around in his shoes, the feeling of the seat against his bottom, the cold of the night air. As he began to stand from his chair, stepping onto his feet in the first time in years, with a smile on his face. As all of the other soldiers began to gather, the counselor looking on in amazement as they finally neared the center of the crater and saw him standing there. "What in the world happened?" they said as they looked at him in astonishment. And as he looked back with a smile on his face, "What happened? I'm a soldier again. That's what happened," he said, smiling brightly, now with excitement in his heart.